Good morning, everyone. Allison Crawford and I together are co-presidents of the Interschool Council, and we're happy to welcome you to today's hot topic presentation. The ISC is a parent-run organization that works to help promote the educational development of students in Lower Merion School District. We serve as a liaison between our home and school associations and administration and help foster best practices between our 11 HSAs. These monthly hot topic sessions held on the third Tuesday are exclusive to parents and guardians in Lower Merion School District and are a unique opportunity for us to meet with administration and ask questions pertaining to our children's education. Today's presentation will be hybrid. We have parents both here and over Zoom. The presentation will be recorded, but not the Q&A. If you do have a follow-up question, please feel free to reach out to us at isc.copresidents@gmail.com. We ask that you raise your hand both in person and online if you have a question. Please keep your questions general in nature. Allison and I will be managing questions that come in over Zoom, and chat will be closed for this presentation. Today's hot topic is on internet safety and digital citizenship, and we welcome Jen Goldberg, who will be the first of our speakers to today's session.
Good morning. I am Jen Goldberg. I am the elementary technology specialist supporting all of the instructional technology at all 6 of our elementary schools.
Hi, I'm Kim Phillips, and I support all of our middle school instructional technology.
Good morning, I'm Laura Huddlemeyer, and I'm at Harriton High School.
And I am Beth Hampton, and I support Lower Merion High School. Okay, so what are we currently doing? So right now we have the Keep Kids Safe program. This is an initiative between Lower Merion School District and Lower Merion Township, and they partnered together in an effort to support the physical and mental health and safety of children. This initiative was kicked off in June with a family information night that provided topics such as internet and social media safety and monitoring, mental health crisis support, healthy activities at local libraries and parks, and when and how law enforcement should be called with concerns. So those resources and that presentation can be found on the district website. The event was followed by the implementation of Lower Merion School District's Off and Away program that started in September. And that's where students are expected to turn off their phones and put them away. That does look different at each of the grade levels. And then in every October, there's Digital Citizenship Week. And with that, there are lessons that are provided to the students in the district, and more will be in the upcoming slides.
Good morning, I'm Leslie Mastronardo. I'm the librarian at Gladwin Elementary. Here to talk a little bit about what elementary schools do in libraries, specifically for our lessons on digital citizenship. We did kind of kick off during Digital Citizenship Week with lessons, and we usually have at least 3 targeted lessons throughout the entire year. And we started with that Digital Citizenship Week because there were many lessons being done in the classrooms during morning meeting. So that was a great way to connect what was happening with our lessons in library, and also kind of hearing some of the same wording, same messaging that they were hearing in the classroom. For these lessons, we really do rely on common sense media, but we do each make it our own. These lessons cover things like some of the things that you see up on our slide, really starting with pausing and thinking, having students making good choices and what that looks like, talking about different scenarios that can happen online. And then we also define what online means. That kind of means when you're on a website, when you're on an app, maybe that's for learning, entertainment, communication. really starting to have them make good decisions online using technology at a young age. We do talk about that pause and think. We talk a lot about media balance, meaning how much screen time is right for me. Not everybody has the same answer there. What's good in one household might look different in another household. But what are some of the things that you can think about and implement with your family that kind of provides a balance, so you can still go play with friends and you can still also learn a little bit and use your technology. We talk a lot about your digital footprint, because that starts very early, about how when you are maybe setting up an account, when you're gaming, all those things, and making choices. Also, when you're messaging and gaming, what does that look like when you're talking to others? Making sure that you are being kind. And if you see something, and we talk a lot about that gut feeling, that if you have something that your gut's saying, oh, this doesn't feel quite right, that you should listen to that. And we always come back to the fact that before, during, and after using technology, they should be in connection with a trusted adult. That if they see something that makes them upset, if they see something that makes them nervous or confused, that the best thing to do is to have already told a trusted adult that they're using technology, and then also being able to follow up that they should always. I think that's one thing that we really stress a lot. Many of our lessons come with a tie-in of a piece of literature. We often start with a book, a wide variety of books. My favorite one to use is one that I don't necessarily connect directly with. One of these, I do them kind of separately sometimes, is The Couch Potato by Jory John, about how, what surprises he found when the power goes out. And so they make a good connection, but overall, these lessons build from first, second, third, and fourth. And we do kind of build on and have them participate in small group and whole group class discussions based on their experiences. And we found this to be very helpful, not only to see where else do we need to be talking about, but also to help students really think through some of these big ideas. That's really about it.
So new this year at the elementary level was Digital Citizenship Week participation. And what we did this year that was really, really awesome. We've been doing library lessons for years, and that's been great, but it's generally contained in the library. And so this year we brought homeroom teachers into it as well. And so every student in every grade level, K-4, and you'll learn about some of the secondary pieces as well, but for K-4, every student heard something every day. So every day there was an announcement of, here's our topic, and you can see them listed. There are 5 of the 6 topics that the Common Sense Media uses for their lessons, but every day was a different topic. So for example, Monday was media balance, and everybody watched a video. The videos were short. They were generally about 90 seconds long, but then they encouraged the class to have a discussion about the topic. They also offered a follow-up activity if students wanted to do it, and often there was a home activity as well. All of the resources for these lessons and videos are posted on the district website. Under the parent section, there's a tab called Digital Citizenship Week, and all the lessons are available there. And so this was a really nice way to tie the homeroom teachers into the content, in addition to what's already been happening in the libraries. And like I said, we did this every day for a week, so every day was a different topic. And we really talked about it, engaged. I got to go into all the classrooms, or as many as I could. I certainly can't be in 6 schools at one time, but trying to get into all the classrooms to work with the kids. And we had there were slightly different videos for K2, or K1 had a video, and then I think 2 to 4 had a different video, but it was developmentally appropriate for that age band.
All right, now we're going to talk about what digital citizenship looks like at our middle schools. So part of our middle school computer science program actually includes digital citizenship topics. So I'm not going to go into depth because Leslie did such a great job describing some of the same topics. You can see like the interwovenness of the topics she discussed are the same ones that we're seeing here at the middle school. Again, just making them more developmentally appropriate for a middle school. Data, safety, and privacy, making sure we're looking specifically at that digital footprint, cyberbullying, social media, and just really making sure that the kids are being safe online. Again, that pausing and reflecting and making sure they know that there's a trusted adult if anything feels not right online. But besides just that curriculum that's in our computer science classes, we also integrate digital citizenship topics during our whole school lessons. So for example, at Welsh Valley, they're called forum lessons. And then at BC and Blackrock, they're called like just SEL lessons that we do monthly. And those topics are integrated. So students are not only just seeing it in class, but they're also getting a generalized idea during that experience with their homeroom teachers. Oh, I'm thinking we're over here. I'm sorry about that. I was like, why is that not moving? Okay. We also celebrate Digital Citizenship Week at our middle schools. This is actually our second year celebrating Digital Citizenship Week, and we're just ramping it up a little bit more this year. We've always had, for the past 2 years, announcements daily at each school read out loud to students with tips to help them about different digital media and digital citizenship topics, keeping them at the front of their mind at the start of the day. This year, every grade level participated in a whole school lesson, and the lesson was all about digital media balance. There was a specific lessons for grades 5 and 6, and then a specific lesson for grades 7 and 8 that all the students participated in. We also had different mini lessons. So for example, teachers could invite me or co-teach to do mini lessons. So a teacher had me come in and do a cyberbullying lesson with their classes. We also had some fun games to support. So Google has a game, if you're looking for a game to do with your children at home, it's called Interland. And it's Google's internet safety game. The kids love it. It feels really fun to them, but it also just reinforces the topics that we're doing at school. So definitely check that one out.
Is it appropriate for all ages or middle
It
school
would
class?
be, it's definitely middle school, and you could probably do late elementary. After middle school, it might be a little too high schoolers might not find it as interesting. But definitely it's a great thing for middle school and upper elementary.
Okay.
Okay, so at the high school, we do a lot of different things. We've been doing, internet safety lessons for well over 10 years. Once we went one-to-one, we were incorporating internet safety lessons every year. But in this year, in September, we did do a Schoology lesson. And basically our whole school lessons are done during advisory. It's really the only common time that all grade levels are in the same location, okay? So in September, we did Schoology. October, during Digital Citizenship Week, we did have daily announcements that we had during the morning announcements, and then we did email them out to the students. In November, we actually did our digital citizenship lesson because that was the advisory time that we could get at the high school. So Laura will talk more, but it was around media balance. So if you didn't get the theme, media balance was the theme for this year. Also in November, we don't have it up there, but on November 28th, there's going to be a showing of Screenagers, next chapter. It deals with mental health in the digital world. So that is going to be at 7 o'clock over at Harrington's Auditorium. So it is a movie that it will be shown. In February, we will do another digital citizenship lesson. We haven't determined what that theme will be for that one. And then in May, we always have where the students go through the internet safety and one-to-one laptop quiz. And this is a requirement for them to receive their laptop for the next year. So we always try to get them to do it in May and June so that they're not rushing come August when they pick it up. Also, our librarians do incorporate digital citizenship and internet safety information when they meet with classes, but again, they're doing it with individual teachers and it's not, school-wide, okay? So these are things that are school-wide that we offer to the high school.
So I'm going to share a little more detail about our media balance lesson to give you just kind of like a better idea of what that looks like at the high school level. So the first thing that the students did was engage, or they watched a 3-minute video from Common Sense Media. So like it was mentioned before, Common Sense Media is definitely probably the most powerful resource we found online for getting lesson ideas and content at all grade levels. So this was geared towards high school, and they watched a 3-minute video about passive versus active screen time. So like passive being, I'm scrolling at, their example is watching cat videos. So like something, random that you're probably not getting a lot of bang for your buck. They also talked about active, where you're interacting with posts, you're maybe posting yourself, building relationships, thinking. So those are, not all screen time is created equal. That was kind of the messaging there. From there, the students took a look at different charts that came from Pew Research Center, which is also a great website if you're looking for like statistics and research on this sort of topic. They have a depth of examples on there. So Pew, it's PEW, Research Institute. And the students saw data that compared how students use technology versus their parents. And, one of the examples was who sleeps with their phone in bed. And we're not going to ask you to raise your hands here, but it was surprising. The parents were higher than I think anybody expected. And so those kinds of things helped us to start these really important conversations with teenagers. So from there, the last piece was having them actively think about a digital media habit that they could change and set a goal for. A lot of them, these were some of the responses you can see up on the screen. There was a lot of students talking about just screen time in general and they know they need to limit it. It's hard to do. Like we all know it's hard to form a new habit. And so I think the off and away, like we have implemented this year, has really created that cultural shift for our teachers to be able to, ask students to put it away and kind of understand better why they need to put it away. So that was just a little glance into what one of our lessons looks like. And this topic in particular came out of one of the Digital Citizenship Committee meetings that Beth is going to tell you more about. So if you're curious, like how do we come up with these ideas or these themes, they're really focused on like what the community is feeling at that moment.
Talking about the difference between parents and children, I'm still getting used to, there shouldn't be 2 spaces after a period. I can't get over that. I know. It's been drilled in me as a business teacher, drilled in my head. So anyway, okay, that came up in conversation this weekend. So anyway, I thought it was appropriate. So we do have committee meetings. So last spring, we formed a digital citizenship committee, and it comprises of teachers and librarians and administrators, and there's a whole slew of people involved in the Digital Citizenship Committee. So we have had 2 meetings so far. Basically, our plan is to have a K-12 scope and sequence on digital citizenship so that we could provide that to, you, the parents. So we've had 2 meetings. In July was the first one, where we discussed what challenges and problems need to be addressed. And then in October, we looked at those challenges and problems, and then we determined where those lessons should take place. Should it take place during an advisory at the high school level? Should it be a whole school? Should it be individual teachers? What program would it be addressed in?
So a fun hot topic that's come up in the past year is artificial intelligence. And that's definitely come up at some of our committee meetings. And we just kind of wanted to give you some insight into like, what do we do when something like this pops up? So in terms of artificial intelligence, it's been around since, well, ChatGPT was released November 30th of last year. So we're coming up on a full year. And in our roles, it's even hard for us to keep up with all the things that are happening because it's changing daily. So our job is to really help support our teachers and prepare them to help prepare our students. So one of the things that we actually shared with some teachers at a professional learning recently are these statistics up here. Just in general, our students are having the opportunity to use AI, whether we like it or not, whether we agree with it or not. And there's a lot, there's a whole range of opinions and feelings. And so we kind of try to wrestle with that. Everybody's coming from with a different viewpoint on this, and whether we like it or not, our students can use it in a variety of programs, and also up to teacher discretion. They can also use it in higher education. They're doing it as since it's been released, and even in the workforce, whether employers like it or not. And so in the past year, people have scrambled to come up with guidelines for their companies, their institutions. And so we do have a syllabus statement, which we'll talk about later, but just to kind of give you some insight into like, why are we talking about AI? What we're doing about it is trying to really build teacher capacity first. So the first thing we've been thinking about is our teachers are watching the same news stories as our parents, our communities. And so how are we going to prepare them to use it with teaching and learning? And so one of the things that we started back to school this year, Lauren Hopkins, supervisor of secondary humanities, scheduled a professional learning. This is at Harrison's Library for all secondary social studies English teachers, librarians, and all of us got to attend to. And it was really insightful. We got a really great introduction into just like, what is it and where do I go to find it? From there, we have offered other professional learning opportunities to staff to really help them first build their own capacity. Like, how can I use this in my own day-to-day, but how can I use it ethically and responsibly and know its limitations? So we've been really thoughtful about trying to frame it, it can do these great things, but we also need to be really mindful of how we're using it and when we're using it. And we, from there, started to offer some more personalized learning experiences. Like for Unified Arts, we had an in-service day recently where our K-12, like librarians, art teachers, et cetera, they came and actually got to explore like lesson implementation. How could I start using this or thinking about using it with my students? Or what are the guidelines I want to like have them adhere to? So that's kind of where we're at. It's changing, as I said, so quickly that this isn't something that's going away. And part of our role is to really continue to support teachers as, we move through it.
And Laura discussed that there is an AI statement that's at the bottom of every high school syllabus. So there is a lot here. I'm just gonna briefly highlight a few things. Teachers and students together can harness the potential of AI technology responsibly while upholding the highest standards of education and integrity. Students are not permitted to utilize AI-powered tools unless given permission from the teacher. Students are expected to maintain the principles of academic honesty and produce original work in all assignments. Where AI tools can enhance the learning experience, the teachers may grant permission for students to use that AI tool. And then when educational objectives require demonstration of students' original work, AI detection tools may be applied to review the work. So at the high school, we have Turnitin, but again, it was on the slide that Laura covered, it should not exceed 20%. Okay, so that is just at the high school.
All right, so I'm just going to show you some guidelines for AI use in general that we've been showing our teachers, as Laura mentioned during professional learning. So one of the first things, and you've already heard this, is that checking for bias and accuracy, that AI occasionally can produce bias work, so making sure that you're really reviewing what you're using. Also, there's an 80-20 approach. So looking at AI for the initial part of the work, reviewing it, conceptualizing it, and putting your final touches. Also, judgment matters. So you're keeping it as a starting point, not the end point. Always adhering to those guidelines and also that professional judgment. Knowing our limits. This is a big one that AI's knowledge only covers up to 2021. So we want to make sure when we're dealing with more recent topics. I even tried recently to ask it about new AI tools and it had no idea what was going on. They happened this year. And also making sure to protect privacy. Don't include any personal details when interacting with artificial intelligence.
All right, so I'm going to talk to you about things that you can do at home. So that just kind of mentally shift from what we're doing here in the school district. Sorry, walked off camera there. So we're mentally shifting for what you can now do at home. So when we think of at home, we're thinking of personal devices, and we will talk at the end. George Fraser's going to speak to you about our district devices at home, but what I'm talking about is personal devices at home. So that's what we're going to be shifting our thinking to. And I've done this for years. I've done this talk for years. This is I'm very passionate about this topic. I have 2 teenagers at home. I was gonna say, you've seen me speak about this before. And there's so much to say about it. So I broke it down in an acronym. I apologize to Harriton, but it says be an ACE. I was working on one for RAM. I probably could come up with an acronym for RAM, but for right now, anyone can be an ACE. But because these are the 3 things that I think are most important that parents need to know is awareness, communication, and environment. Right, those are the big things that we're gonna look through. And we're gonna kind of dig deep into this. So let's move into that. So the first part is being aware. For you to be aware of what is going on. What are your teenagers, your young people at home? What are they doing? So we're going to look at some research. I don't know if you've heard, but like social media has kind of been a thing in research recently, and there's been articles. These are just a couple in the last year or so of articles of research that organizations are doing about the idea of social media specifically. My absolute favorite, and if you only read one of them, it's this here, which is the Surgeon General's, the last one here. It came out in May. It's from the Surgeon General. The Surgeon General, the guy who told us not to smoke years ago, right? This is important. They're now weighing in, or he's now weighing in on social media. And what I love about this report is it's really easy to read. I've read it many times, and I've read it at the dinner table with my kids. They don't love that about me, but that's okay. But that's how it goes at my dinner table. But what I love about this report is there are sections on what should policymakers do? What should technology companies do? What should parents and caregivers do? And more importantly, what should children and adolescents do? And so there's like one page about each of those topics. And it's just really good. I recommend reading this with your kids, your teenagers. They'll hate you, but blame me. That's fine. I'll take the heat on that. But it's really easy to read and understand. And it really just sort of frames, what are the recommendations? What are the guidelines? So let's take a look. So I've read all of these. I've read a lot of other things. I've read all these books, which we'll talk about up here. And so in an effort to synthesize everything, right? There's so much out there. What are the take-home messages? And the take-home messages are up here from the research. Social media has both positive and negative effects, right? Okay, that's been true. There are positives to social media. Social media helps marginalized groups. Social media helps kids have community and connection. So there are positives. People sometimes want to throw it out because there's certainly negatives to it as well, but there's both, right? So we can't just assume that it's all horrible and bad. And parents need to monitor the digital environment, right? Make sure that they're not using it in a harmful way or compulsive way. So, watching cute videos of cats all day is fine, but if you're watching them 8-10 hours a day, then that's still not okay. And then the biggest factor is the amount of time. I love this last sentence on here. The amount of time children and adolescents spend on social media platforms should not affect their sleep, physical activity, in-person interactions, and other things like helping around the house or community. So if social media fits into those frames, then, it's a lot, right? That's a tall order, but that's where you start to see the balance of using social media. All right, so. I think Kim. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we're gonna play a little game.
Awesome. So we're about to cross over to talk about social media, but before we do that, we felt like we'd get a little interactive. There are some different icons up here. Instead of having you try to name all of them, take a minute I'm gonna ask you how many you think you can name. If it helps, I was stumped on a few of these too.
I like, I want to see my hand up.
Okay.
I have 12.
Okay.
I got 11.
Do you all want to start? We'll do this. What I used to do with my students is we'll raise a hand, starting with how many people could figure out at least one. Awesome. Yeah. Start off with one. All right. How about at least 5? Okay. How about 7? Keep your hand up for 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Oh, okay. Awesome. All right. Is there any of them, instead of me going through all of them, is there any certain number that anyone wants me to?
Yeah.
16 was the one okay, that is you both. And Jen, do you want to?
Yeah, so this is it's a lesser known, but it is a social media platform. And it has come up in the news, last spring. This came up very specifically, because it can be used, adults and children were interacting with this particular platform. So that's one that's the reason why we're doing this is if you see these things on your kid's device, ask questions. That's one that you would ask a question about, why you're using that platform.
So I think probably most of us think we have Facebook, TikTok, we have Snapchat. This is Twitch. 5 is Band. 6 is Discord. That's like another chatting one you should keep your eye out for. Down here, 7, we have WhatsApp, which is also a messaging one. 8 is the game Minecraft, any of your children play. Roblox. This is an AI, when we're talking about AI, this is ChatGPT.
We had to take the logo, it says ChatGPT on the
We had
logo,
to
so we had
crop
to find
it
one
to
without
make
it,
it,
that's ChatGPT.
Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. This is Fortnite. This is Messenger Kids. We talked about Yubo. Pinterest.
Is that the one that like the calculator and it hides pictures?
That
Yeah,
one-
I
I was like, years ago.
Yes.
You're probably the first person who's ever, everybody else looks at it
I
like, why is
guess
a calculator
I
on
guess
there?
so.
It's not a calculator. It's not a calculator because there's an equal sign, not a division symbol.
Yes.
What it is it's an app that hides photos. It can hide files on your phone. So it looks like a calculator and nobody would think anything of it. But you enter a specific combination and then you can hide photos and files on your phone. So these are the things that, like, when we're in these sections, thank you, Kim.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're talking about awareness. These are the things to think about and be aware. Do you know what's on your children's devices? Do you know what they're using? And you think you know, but make sure you really know, right? So that's what I did the same thing now. I'm wrong. All right, that's what we're talking about. All right, so now we're gonna talk specifically about social media. Oh, yeah, this is my favorite. All right, so can you recognize this? Does anybody seen this before? All right, good. Megan, you're shaking your head. So we're gonna watch this video for a second, and then I'm gonna give you the background of why we're watching this video.
Oh, like this.
Now, Lord, so my mouth actually moves.
You cannot laugh when you watch this video. Her laugh is infectious. Okay, so just so you know, that's a 30-second clip. The actual video is 4 minutes of that laughing, okay? So this is Candace Payne from Dallas, Texas. This came out in 2016. This woman went to Kohl's to return sweatpants that she had bought. And she saw this and decided to pick it up for her kids. She thought, she got in the car and she put it on and thought it was hysterical and made a FaceTime live video and sent it to her friends. Okay, made a FaceTime live video, sent it to a couple of her friends, and that was it. And then she went to bed. Oh, done. There we go. Within 24 hours, that video hit 50 million views.
Wait, Facebook Live, not FaceTime.
Did I say FaceTime?
I think.
Facebook Live. That's fair.
I
Correct
was
me.
trying to figure that out. Okay.
Yeah, so it's on Facebook. It hit 50 million views in 24 hours. She went to bed, she woke up, she got a call from the BBC, Good Morning America, NPR, CNN, and every local news station in Dallas called her in the morning. People showed up at her door. She went from 2,000 Facebook friends to almost 1 million. And she still holds the record today. I looked this up yesterday because I thought this can't be true. If she still holds the record for the most viewed Facebook Live video in history, 174 million views of that woman laughing at the Chewbacca math. Okay. So the reason I'm showing you this is because things happen quickly and things happen unexpectedly. I am certain she did not plan to go to Kohl's and make the world's the most viewed video on Facebook. I'm sure that wasn't her intention. She's written a book about this. She's become like a celebrity. She has a book called Laugh It Up, that came out in 2017. Like she's made millions of dollars, right? From that video that she sent to a bunch of friends. Apparently I was watching an interview on her, and apparently her husband had no idea what was going on. And like people at work were like asking him all kinds of questions about it. He had no idea. So things happen fast. You can see the chart here, 75 years for a telephone to get to 50 million. And this took 24 hours, and 50 million people saw it within the first 24 hours, 174 million views. So it's a little bit of levity, but it's also, I want you to see where things go and how things move so quickly around here. All right. Oh, I did that again. I gotta remember that. All right. So looking at Instagram. Okay, I didn't pick, there's a ton of social media. We're just picking a couple big platforms. But why I pulled out Instagram is because Instagram, very common with teenagers, Instagram actually has a lot of resources available to help parents use it safely, but you have to know to look for them. You won't know unless you look. They actually have on their Instagram Help Center, just Google Instagram Help Center, and you'll see there's a parent's guide to Instagram, and it's actually really good. Wow. And they have, look at these, they have tips for parents, being your authentic self, self-injury, eating disorders. They give you tips for how to deal with stuff. And it's worth looking at for you to read it, have your children read it if they're planning to use it. But people don't know that it's there unless they look for it. So that's what we're talking about. We're still talking awareness, right? Being aware of what's out there. Instagram does state that their user has to be 13 years of age. Okay, that's another big thing about Instagram. They did recently set up what they call supervision tools, but unfortunately, supervision tools, because their terms of service are state you have to be 13, their supervision tools only apply to a 13 to a 17-year-old. And that allows you to turn on sort of monitoring for those 13 to 17-year-old users of Instagram. But again, you have to look for those kind of things, and you can find those within their help center. And it's all pretty clearly laid out. Yeah.
You have to have an Instagram account yourself in order to use the supervision tools, do you know?
Yes. As far as yes, as far as I know, you would have to have your own account. You don't have to like do anything with it, but you would have to have an adult account to be able to monitor the teen account. All right, looking at TikTok. Now, I'm gonna be really honest with this group here. I didn't know until I started to research for this presentation that TikTok had built-in screen time in the app itself. Okay, so when you're in TikTok, you can actually set, hey, I only want to be on it for 30 minutes at a time, and then it will stop you from doing the mindless scrolling. You can say, I only want to use it for an hour a day, or on weekends I want 2 hours a day, but during the week I only want an hour, and you can set that directly in the app. But you have to look. Because if you don't look, you won't see it. There's also a feature called family pairing, which is similar to what I just said, but an adult would need an account, and then I can pair my account with my kid's account, and I would be able to set the screen time for my kid. So on my phone, I can say my kid can only have TikTok for an hour a day, whatever, those kind of things. So TikTok has this stuff built in. Again, TikTok, though, incidentally, and I double checked this yesterday to make sure it was accurate. TikTok says if you're under the age of 18, you may not use their services without the consent of your parent or legal guardian. A lot of people assume TikTok is 13, but TikTok is 18 without parental consent. The other thing to know about TikTok is that by default, every TikTok account is public. So if your kid creates an account at 13, 14, 15, even at 18, whenever they create an account, TikTok is always public. And they need to go into the settings right here and turn on private account. But they don't know to do that unless we tell them that. So again, that's being aware, right? That's part of the awareness, is making sure we're aware of that. All right, we're gonna shift gears a little bit to screen time. And Laura already alluded to the fact that not all tech use is the same. And so Common Sense Media breaks this down. These are their categories. But I tend to follow the same categories. Sorry, I'm just trying to find the right, there we go. They break it down into 4 different categories. So they describe screen time as passive, right? Just watching, so like YouTube, we're just sitting there just consuming. Then we have interactive, so I'm Minecrafting or I'm road blocking, where I'm like building, creating, that kind of thing. I could also be communicating, so I'm Snapchatting, I'm messaging, or I'm content creating. I'm making an iMovie. I'm making a song in GarageBand. And so those are very, very, very different uses of screen time. And so I get asked all the time, how much screen time should my 6-year-old have? How much screen time should my 12-year-old have? I can't answer that because it depends on what they're doing. I think there's a ton of value in some of those content creating. My kids have made amazing songs on GarageBand. My daughter loves to make videos in iMovie. So it really depends on what you're doing. But when you try to come up with here's the number that's magic for you and your kid, you have to really evaluate what it is they're doing. And if you see them spending too much time in one particular area, helping them to see moving through the other different areas in there. But when you're considering screen time limits for kids, consider the type of screen time. All right, moving into the C of our ACE, we're talking about communication now. So we've talked about awareness, making sure you're aware of what's out there, how things move, spread, change. And now we're going to become communicators. We're going to talk with our kids and we're going to talk with each other. This is the best example I can give is that I cannot call my mother and say, hey, how old was I when I got my first Instagram? How did you manage my Snapchat use, Mom? Did I have my phone in my room? No, I had that corded phone that it actually plugged into my parents' bedroom, and I had to snake it across the hallway, and it plugged in, and then it was in my room. But then if my mom got mad that I was on the phone too long, she would just unplug it because it plugged into her room. So I'd be in the middle of a call, and it would just get unplugged because I was on too much. So it's not the same thing. So we need to communicate with each other. We also need to communicate with our kids because we assume our kids know everything, and they don't, as much as we want to assume they know everything. And those 2 quotes come from Deborah Hettner's Screenwise book, but she has a brand new book, which came out in September. It's phenomenal. And this is a slightly different direction because this talks about the public nature of kids growing up. And it's fascinating if you ever talk to teenagers today about how they live in sort of a more public world and they don't even realize it. Like the idea of them giving out information or being on social media isn't like, to me, it might seem foreign, but to them, it's just the way it is. So anyway, so communicating with your kids and communicating with other parents is also really important. And so some of these tips come from Deborah Hettner and just kind of a synthesis of all the research that I've done. But creating, so being a tech positive parent, right? Modeling for them, right? If you don't want your kid to use their phone during dinner, then you put your phone away as well, right? Modeling those kind of things. I highly recommend a media agreement or media family plan. There's 2 different links here, one of which comes from Common Sense Media, one of which comes from the AAP, and that's the American Academy of Pediatrics. And so it's just basically a contract. Here's what I plan to do with my device. Here's what I don't plan to do with my device. Here's what happens if I don't follow the plan, right? Being clear about it if your kid is using a device and making sure that they know that technology gives them the power to make a difference in the world, but to use it for positive power. All right. When you're communicating with your kids, some of the things that you may not think to teach your kids, right? Like I just had a 60-year-old get his driver's license. That was the thing. Yeah, my Havertown friends look out because Caleb's on the road. He got his license on last Tuesday. But I knew, like, I know how to teach a kid how to drive. There's laws, right? There's a manual of like, you have to know these things. There's not a manual of what you have to teach your kid when you hand them a phone. So some of the things you may not think about is teaching your kid personal versus private information. And I know that we do a great job in our schools to do it, but you need to reiterate that message of what is personal, what is private. When you're creating, and Leslie talked about it, when you're creating a screen name, you're going to go on Minecraft and you're going to make your screen name. Your screen name shouldn't be Sammy Sample 318, which is your first name, your last name, and your birthday, right? And then put a profile picture of yours. Don't laugh. That came up. That's a real example, Jen. That came up from one of our schools. that literally came, there was a student whose first name, last name, and 318 was actually their birthday. And their photo was a picture of themselves, and they had the t-shirt with the school name in it in their photo. Profile pictures are always public. Always public on any social media. Profile pictures are public. So if I'm Sammy Sample 318 and a picture of my school name, that's a whole lot of information for the whole world to see. So teach kids that. Profile pictures, if you ever look me up, you're going to see my dog. You're going to see a lot of my dog. Right now you see my dog wearing a hockey jersey because she's a Flyers fan. But I just make sure they know that. Making sure your kid knows how to respond to cyberbullying. Okay, make sure they know what to do. And I know all of my colleagues have talked about that feeling that they get and who they need to talk to, but making sure you've had those conversations so that they know what their plan is. Teaching your kids about privacy and permanency. Okay, I have that on here, permanency and privacy. Permanency meaning once on the internet, always on the internet. If you don't believe that, look up the Wayback Machine. Wayback Machine is an internet website. You can just Google, it's called the Wayback Machine, although its official address is it's the web archive, but Google Wayback Machine. The Wayback Machine will literally show you any website at any point in time that's been on the internet. You want to see what the Lower Merion School District webpage looked like in 2016? Go to the Wayback Machine and you'll see what it looked like in 2016. So everything is out there, even though, like I used to have a website when I was looking for a job 25 years ago. I had a website and you could still find it in the Wayback Machine. I haven't had it and paid for it in 15 years, but it's still out there, right? So teaching your kids about permanency, once it's out there, and then privacy, meaning, so we have that camera, would you like to use your current location? Location and geotagging, that's a big thing. If I stand here in this room right now and take a picture of myself and my location services are turned on, it's going to tag it to this room. And then I text it to my friend Megan, and guess what? That tag goes with it. So now Megan knows where I took that picture. And then Megan posts that on social media, and guess what? That tag goes with it. And so now everybody knows where I took that picture. Okay, so geotagging lives on, it's actually a meta file contained in the photo. You can't remove it once it's turned on. So there are times where you want location services turned on. I need to know the weather, and I need to know it here, not in Tallahassee. So I need location to know the weather. But I don't necessarily need location on my camera. So you need to make sure your kids know that as well. Okay. I see that a lot. I see a lot of people text me photos and I was like, oh, I can tell where that was taken. A lot of times people have no idea. So making sure they know that. And then common online scans, fake contests, phishing, viruses, and malware. The biggest one is fake contests. This is actually a picture from my Instagram account. This was taken not that long ago that says, you've won an iPhone 13. Cool. I did not enter a contest. I am certain I didn't actually win an iPhone 13, and I'd probably have to give them a whole lot of information to get it. But if I'm 12, that might look really cool. And I might think, oh yeah, I won the iPhone 13. I want that new phone. I'm going to send them whatever they asked for. So making sure that they know to recognize those kind of things. I didn't enter a contest. All right. Moving on. All right, we're into the E, the environment, right? So now we want to talk about what we can do. The way I think about environment is I drop my kid off at a playground. If the swings are all rusty and they're hanging down by a thread and the slide is all cracked, that's not a safe environment for my kid to play on the playground. I'm going to do the best I can to provide a safe environment for my kid in a digital world. So most devices have things available for you to use. I'm going to start with Apple products, and this isn't like a how-to session. This is just what is out there. Okay. Apple products have two, well, they actually have three we'll talk about on the next slide. They have family sharing. Family sharing is phenomenal. I use it on my own kids. And so what I do, and actually that's that bottom one, Caleb, that's my son. So that's actually from his phone and what I have set up for him and his activity. I can monitor everything that I can monitor his screen time. I can say it shuts off at 10, it opens up at 6 a.m. I can say what apps he can use, how long he can use them. I can get granular. I can really get into the weeds with this. I can set up his contacts. Now, my son, this guy's 16, so I don't have all those set up. I have a 14-year-old as well, and I do have a lot more things set up for her. I can block specific websites if I don't want them to go to specific websites. You can really get into the weeds down there, but it's all built in, but you have to know how to work through these things. And Apple Families has a page on their website that you can learn more about it. And so family sharing is basically step one. You set up family sharing. I have an Apple ID. My kids have their own Apple ID. People sometimes make the mistake of buying a device for a kid and not giving them an Apple ID. They absolutely should have their own ID so then I can connect with them and manage. If they're under my ID, then I'm managing both of us. And that doesn't work because we have different limits. So I buy a device for my kid at whatever age I choose, and I get them an Apple ID. Like that's just a part of the plan if I'm an Apple person. I also pro tip recommend if you're buying a device for your kid, buy the same device that you have. If you're an Apple family, get an Apple because you already know how to use it and your services will work better because Apple plays nicely with Apple. If you're a Google family, buy a Google, but a lot of times people come to me with a Google phone for their kid and an Apple for them, and they're like, I don't know how to manage it. It's a lot easier if you're on the same platform, whatever platform you choose. I'm personally pro Apple. That's my personal preference, but I just think Apple does a really nice job of their limits and things like that. But Google also has products, which we'll look at. So here's the other tool that Apple has. And this is the lesser known tool. It's been around way longer than Screen Time and Family Access. It's called Guided Access, and Guided Access is really simple. It just locks the device on the specific app. Why would I use this? I see this all the time. You're waiting in the doctor's office and you give your phone to your kid. I'm thinking of a smaller kid, right? You give your phone to your kid and you want them to just watch that video, play that game. You don't want them like accidentally emailing your boss or something. You can lock your phone so that it's only on that video or that game or that app. You can also use it the opposite way. If you say, hey, you have 10 minutes to play this game, you can lock the iPad so that I play this game and in 10 minutes, it will shut. It'll like close off and they'll be done. It'll be locked. They'll need a passcode. So again, you need to know how to set this up. It's just in the accessibilities, guided access. And there's you can set time limits on there as well. But guided access is a very underutilized tool. And I think it gives parents a lot of flexibility. Next, we have Google products. Google products have a family section of their webpage, and then they have the Google Family Link, which works very similar to the Apple tools. In Google Family Link, you can set up screen time limits for your kid. You can approve or block content. You can protect your child's privacy, so what data gets shared. You can also use it to locate your child, and you can get location notifications when my kid arrives or leaves a specific location through Google Family Link. So it works very similarly to Apple Families. And again, the website is just families.google. Right, there's also YouTube Kids. YouTube Kids is a great tool because it allows you to set up profiles. So if you have a 6-year-old and a 12-year-old, they don't need the same exact settings. So you can set different rules and regulations for different kids. You can also select parent approved content, means that only the stuff you say. So I only want you to watch these 10 videos. These are the only options. You can set it that way. You can also allow collections. So I only want you to watch creative drawing videos or whatever your collection is. You can turn on or off collections so that you can only watch videos that are in that category. You can also filter by age band. So if you have a preschooler, there's a preschool category, and you can say only access to 4 and under preschool, or there's a younger category for ages 5 to 8. So only anything that's aged 5 to 8 in that band is all they would be able to see. You can also set a timer in YouTube Kids, just like we've talked about with some of the other apps, and you can block a single video or an entire channel or channels. So YouTube Kids does give you a little bit of flexibility with younger students or children. And then YouTube itself has a restricted mode. Okay, and that's a screenshot from my phone. Restricted mode, you have to turn it on. It is device specific. So I have to turn it on my phone. I have to turn it on my computer. I have to turn it on my iPad. I have to turn it on my Chromebook. Whatever device I use, I have to turn it on. It's not like a universal setting. And it's not 100% accurate, but it's better than nothing. It basically, YouTube tries to pull out what they find is inappropriate. So there are things that will slip through, but it's definitely better than nothing. It is, I've not seen the slip through things, but I do know that it could happen. And then there's also Google Safe Search. And again, you have to turn it on. And again, it is device specific. It's not 100% accurate, but also better than using nothing. And again, we're talking about personal devices because George is going to talk about our devices, which are already filtered. Right? I just want to make sure Okay, so it will hide explicit content, like images of violence and things like that. All right, so to follow up, we have district websites that are available. We have a website called Digital Citizenship. It's on the Parents tab. You just go to Lower Merion School District Parents, and on the left, you'll see Digital Citizenship. We have a specific page for Off Our Way. We have a specific page for Keep Kids Safe. I maintain the Check It Out newsletter, which you'll find on the Digital Citizenship page. It's a newsletter. The newsletter has like current stuff. I read a cool article, and I put it up there. And so that's what the difference between the newsletter and the website. The website just has like all the resources, but the newsletter is like when I read something new and interesting that I kind of put up there. And then Common Sense Media is obviously a resource we use. And then smartsocial.com is another place that I go to get ideas, recommendations. They evaluate social media websites and things like that. So if you see one of those websites, remember when we looked at those 18 different images and you see one, you're like, I don't really know. Is that one, should I use it? Go to Smart Social and they'll tell you, they'll give you red, yellow, or green.
So we share this presentation too about that.
Yeah.
This is one we can definitely share.
Yeah,
So
we'll
I'll pass it along because the next couple of slides are all wonderful research that Jen's done, but don't bother to take pictures of it.
Yeah, don't-
It'll be easier to just.
Yeah, these are just the, these are the articles, and books that I used to synthesize to put together those slides. So don't copy all those. I mean, unless you really want to, but. All right, and then.
Yeah, I mean, we couldn't get a counselor to attend today. So they did provide 4 articles for mental health supports.
Thank you.
All right, so I'll turn it over to George Frazier.
Good morning. Okay, so just to talk a little bit about the, try to get this straight. Good morning. So just to talk a little bit about our web filter. We install web filter on all devices, both student and employee. And the foundation of that is actually comes from the Children's Internet Protection Act. There is a law out there that simply says, hey, you need to filter what students and employees have access to on district provided devices. So that filter is installed on all devices that we deploy. And just to give you an idea of what it looks like, because we hire a company to help us do this. We purchase a product that's called iBoss, and we select the categories that we want blocked. And again, the foundation of that is right out of the Children's Internet Protection Act. And it's I don't want to say it's perfect. We'll call it 99%. But we go in and we select categories, and this is just a screenshot from the web filter configuration. And you can see that we're blocking games, guns, illegal activity, malware content. Again, this is just a snippet. There's dozens of categories, but games is a problem. The students are constantly finding game websites. They're very easy to stand up on websites. They go up and down constantly. The students find them, they start playing games. And we get a report, hey, students found another gaming website, and we try to block it. So we're constantly playing catch up with games in particular. So this is a bit of a balancing act though. So sometimes what one person feels is a valuable resource, another person feels is a time waster. So we're constantly in this kind of like a balancing act of trying to provide as much access as possible for instruction, for learning, for researching, for exploring, and at the same time trying to protect students from accessing things that may be inappropriate or harmful. So what I get questions a few times a year. I'll get a call from a parent saying, hey, I want to do more. I want to do more filtering, or I want to know more about what my students browsing. And I try to explain, like, take a step back and try to think about everything that a student has access to, right? So Jen just did an amazing job talking about the phone and how to help with phones. But step back and take a look at everything else the student has access to. So as an example, in the home, the TV, a smart TV, has a browser. Many game systems, if not all game systems, have a browser. Even the portable gaming systems have a browser on them. So if you may take the phone away. In our house, I have 3 boys, a little bit older now, but we used to take the phone away. But then I found my son was browsing the web on his portable game system. So I advise parents, take a step back, think about all the devices they have access to, and how do you filter all those devices? So the way to do that is at the home router. Many of us subscribe to Comcast or Verizon. Comcast does a better job than Verizon, but you can actually like limit access to devices after a certain amount of time using that home router. I think it's Comcast. I'm a Verizon subscriber, but it's Comcast who I think has a pretty good app for managing the router and the devices and how long they can stay connected and kicking them off the wireless access. So step back, find out how many devices your child has access to that has internet access, and then figure out how to filter that at the home level. I just mentioned these are the links for Verizon and Comcast for how to get access to the parental controls. Other products that I recommend are, some parents just will say like, hey, I don't want to restrict my kids' access, but I want to know what they're accessing. Like, is there a way for me to see what they're accessing on all the devices in the house? And a product that I recommend is called OpenDNS. There's free levels of it, and then there's paid levels for it. It's not terribly expensive, but it will log all of the internet activity from the devices that are browsing through this particular service. So again, parents will say like, I don't want to block what they're doing. I just want to see what they're doing so that I can talk to them about time management or setting priorities or making good choices. And OpenDNS is a product that will allow you to do that. And these are the 4 levels there.
Would that work on our school computers?
It will. So it's set up on the router, the home router, and it steers all of your internet traffic through OpenDNS. DNS will just constantly log that browsing activity, and you could go in and take a look. So yes, all the solutions that I'm showing you work on the school district laptop or the Xbox or the PlayStation or the TV. If you another product that I've worked with, if you want to take it a step further, is called the Circle Home Plus. I think this was recently bought out by another company, but that URL still works. And here, this acts like our web filter in that it has categories that you can allow or block. So if you want to, if for example, like streaming media or streaming apps, Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, like that goes back and forth and back and forth. Like, I don't want my kid to have access to Disney Plus. Oh, we're going to have a Disney Plus watch party. Like, why are you blocking that? I don't know. So if you want to take it a step further with adding additional categories of blocking, Circle Plus is a recommended product. Just a couple more links, more information, how to block pornography on your child's devices and how to set up and use Wi-Fi routers for parental controls. A couple more resources for you to use.
Gonna be available for us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I think that's my last slide. Yep. So I will turn it back over to.
I have a quick question. You said you're constantly trying to play catch up with the games
Yeah.
that I feel mostly middle schoolers are playing, at least based on my own personal experience. Are you looking for teachers or parents, or are you monitoring like the backside of what kids are doing?
So I'll take we're not monitoring their activity, like we're not constantly like watching what they're browsing. we kind of crowdsource that and ask that if a parent or teacher or even students will share, hey, you ought to block this website. It's a gaming website and it's distracting. So we'll take that information any way we can. Yes.
So, I have a question about older kids. My